fate of you who are listening, of nations, of the world is often hung upon accident or upon decisions that made another way would have substantially altered the course of human events.
Suppose by a stroke of fate, the battleship Maine had not been blown up in Havana Harbor. Suppose fate had decreed that Hitler had been killed in the Munich beer hall putsch.
Yes, much depends on a stroke of fate. And tonight we rewrite history as we present our conception of what might have happened
if, by a stroke of fate, Abraham Lincoln had secured the job he wanted in 1841, a position in our consular service in South America.
It is an historical fact that after Lincoln had a quarrel with his fiancée, Mary Todd, they broke their engagement. He tried to secure a position in the United States consular service in South America. He actually failed. Tonight, he succeeds. This is our stroke of fate that changes history. Up to that point, our story is historically true. The rest will be speculation. Now, to tell you our story, we bring out of the past Lincoln's close friend, Joshua F. Speed.
Abe Lincoln came to Springfield, Illinois in 1837 when he was 28 years old. He arrived penniless, began to make a living as a lawyer, and late in 1839 he met Mary Todd of Kentucky, a girl from a rich family. They became engaged, but Lincoln had many doubts about his marriage being successful. And on January 1st, 1841, he went to see Mary at the home of her sister, where Mary was staying.
Mr. Lincoln, what you say is surprising and painful.
Mary, I think I'd almost rather cut off my right arm than say these things, and yet I must. Your folks are well-to-do. As my wife, you'd have to be poor compared to what you used to.
But you have a fine future. You'll not always be poor, Mr. Lincoln.
It'll be many years until I can provide for you as you deserve, Mary.
When I accepted your proposal of marriage, Mr. Lincoln, I was not under the impression I was marrying King Midas.
Mary, I know I should be happier with you than the way I am, provided I saw no signs of discontent in you. But I'm afraid...
Mr. Lincoln, we've been engaged to be married for some time. Everybody in Springfield knows about it. Why have you waited this long before saying these things?
Because I've been thinking about it, Mary, and the more I consider it, the more unfair it seems to ask you to marry a man who'll never make you happy. If after this you still want to marry me, I'll be glad to abide by your decision. But for your own sake, I think you shouldn't consider it.
Mr. Lincoln, under the circumstances, I quite agree with you. We'll consider our engagement at an end.
Mary,
What, Mr. Lincoln?
Nothing, Mary. Nothing. Goodbye.
Lincoln sank into a deep melancholy. For a week he did not attend the state legislature of which he was a member. He wrote a letter to his law partner, John T. Stewart, then in Washington, serving as a congressman.
I am now the most miserable man living. If what I feel were equally distributed to the whole human family, there would not be one cheerful face on earth.
One evening, Lincoln came home to the room we shared. He looked thinner than usual. His clothes flapped about him as if from a scarecrow. His face was haggard. His eyes had lost their luster.
Speed.
Oh, hello, Abe.
I've just come from seeing Dr. Henry.
What'd he say?
He advised a complete change of scenery. He thought it might even be better if I got clear out of the country.
Gosh, all hemlock, Abe. That is a change. You're not thinking of doing it, are you?
I got to, Speed. If I stay here any longer, I'll go crazy.
But out of the country?
I'm going to ask Stewart to speak to Daniel Webster for me. There's an opening in our consular service in Bogota, Colombia.
Colombia? Well, that's way down in South America.
Yes, the government's looking for somebody to take charge of representing us down there with the title of Charge d'Affaires or something such thing. Well, That'd sure be a change of scenery.
Congressman Stewart got Lincoln the job he wanted, and in June 1841, Lincoln took a ship for Colombia. About 6 months later, I received a letter from him written from Bogota.
Dear Speed, well, I certainly feel considerably better than when we last saw each other. While on shipboard, I had the good fortune to sit next to a most attractive young lady from Colombia, and I was fairly taken with her at once. After supper, we went out on deck.
Oh, it is a lovely evening. Is it not, Mr. Lincoln?
Yes, Miss Caprina. And if you don't mind my saying so, it's fine having such a pleasant companion to share it with.
That is exactly how I feel, Mr. Lincoln. Oh, you do not think I am forward in saying such a thing?
Oh, not at all, ma'am. I'm highly complimented. You know, Miss Caprina, you seem to me a bit different from what I expected the ladies of your country to be like.
You mean because I am forward?
Oh, no, ma'am.
Mr. Lincoln, my father is very advanced in his ideas for the ladies of his family. And my mother, she's an American. I am very much like an American, no?
Well, no.
Oh, that is not a compliment.
What I mean, ma'am, is that, well, you look different. Your ways are different. To be honest with you, I've never met anybody quite as good-looking as you are.
Oh, bueno. That is a compliment. Mr. Lincoln, may I ask why you are going to Colombia?
Why, I'm going down there to represent the United States. I'm what they call the charge d'affaires.
Then you will be in the capital in Bogota.
That's right.
I live in Bogota. It's a beautiful city. I think you will like it.
Yes, ma'am. I think I will.
More than a year later, in December of 1842, I got this letter from Abe Lincoln.
Dear Speed, the biggest news I have is of my marrying, which is a matter of profound wonder to me. The new Mrs. Lincoln is the lady I met on shipboard, Miss Inez Caprina. I cannot understand why so lovely and charming a creature as my wife should be willing to marry me. But I venture that if any woman can make me happy, she is the one.
Lincoln and I kept up our correspondence, and towards the end of 1843, he wrote,
So Mary Todd has married our friend, Congressman Stephen Douglas. Well, she has made a fine choice. I have sent them my best wishes for their future happiness. Yesterday, Mrs. Lincoln gave birth to a boy. Weight, 6 pounds, 6 ounces. I've taken the liberty of naming him after you, Joshua Speed Lincoln. My Spanish is coming along well enough so that if little Josh cries in that language, I'll be able to understand him. Speed, there's considerable talk here about the possibility of a canal or a railroad across the Isthmus of Panama, which belongs to Colombia, a canal that will connect the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. And I can conceive that it is very much to the interests of the United States to secure the right-of-way for such a canal by leasing the necessary land from Colombia and building it ourselves.
Many of the letters I received from Lincoln from then on had to do with his interest in the canal across Panama. In one letter I received in 1850, he told of President Lopez of Colombia attending a dinner party at Lincoln's home and of a conversation they had afterwards.
Senor Lincoln, what was it that you were just not telling your American friend, Senor White, that made him so to laugh?
Well, Senor Presidente, it was a story about a man I knew back in Illinois who was fined $10 for contempt of court. Well, after being fined, he gave the clerk of the court $20. When the clerk started to give him back $10, he said, "Never mind the change, I'll just take it out in contempt."
Never mind the change, I will... Oh, yes. Very funny. Senor Lincoln, I wish to discuss this plan of yours for the canal across Panama.
Papa, you promised to ride me piggyback.
Well, yes, I did, Josh. Now, you go upstairs, and I'll come up later and give you a piggyback ride.
Senor Presidente, how is your little boy?
Oh, he's fine, Josh. And how are your brother and sister?
Oh, they're fine, too. All except Tom. He's got the colic.
Oh, the colic. I'm very sorry to hear that.
I'm going upstairs and play soldier.
All right, son.
Senor Lincoln, about this matter of our leasing to the United States the land for a canal across the isthmus.
Yes, Senor Presidente.
Always our people ask, why should we not build such a canal ourselves?
Well, we know why you haven't.
The cost is too great. Unfortunately, my country is poor.
If you lease that land to us, I think the United States will pay you considerable for the lease and as rent. But if you wait, the British might build a canal across Nicaragua. And that'd be the end of the Panama Canal.
But would your Congress appropriate the money for such a lease?
I think they will. I've gotten my friend Senator Stephen Douglas considerably interested in it. He realizes that with California ours, since the Mexican War, how important it is to be able to get from one coast to another by water quickly.
To transport soldiers, eh?
Now, that's a part of it, I confess. But the canal would remain open to all.
Senor Lincoln, you know there is a small but strong group here that thinks the United States has imperialistic designs in South America.
There's about as much substance to that charge as there is to a soup made from boiling the shadow of a pigeon that had starved to death.
That is very well stated. Yes. But you know, senor, that most of my people do not feel like that towards Americans. And that, senor, is because you have won the love of my people.
Why, thank you.
But, senor, if I try to get my country to accept your proposal, there are a few hotheads who will blame you and might take to violence.
Violence? I can't conceive of that.
Nevertheless, I think perhaps I should order a guard to be placed about your house.
Senor Presidente, I think you're being unduly alarmed. I don't want a guard here. They might shoot the wrong people.
You are listening to What Might Have Happened.
If, by a stroke of fate, Abraham Lincoln had secured the job he wanted in 1841, a position in our consular service in South America.
Our story from the point of his getting that position has been and continues to be speculation.
My friend Abe Lincoln's efforts in behalf of the Panama Canal bore fruit. Congress appropriated enough money to lease the land from Colombia and begin the construction. Meanwhile, Lincoln, by magnificent diplomacy, had overcome the objections of the Colombian government, and they had agreed on terms. The small anti-American group in Colombia was furious, and at the beginning of 1852, I received a tragic letter from Lincoln.
Dear Speed, several weeks ago, I was sitting in my office at a time when generally I would be working at home when...
Senor Lincoln, there is a crowd in front of your house. They are angry.
Crowd in front of my house? Why?
Oh, they think you are inside. They are shouting insults. They are most angry.
I'll go there at once.
Oh, Senor Lincoln, they will kill you. Please wait for the police. Senor Lincoln.
Down with the Yankee imperialism!
My friend, what do you want?
Lincoln! You have sold out Colombia to your country!
I have sold out no one, my friend.
What we're doing is for the mutual benefit of Colombia and the United States.
That little Yankee lies! He's been shot!
My friend, throwing stones at me will settle nothing.
Don't let the Yankee talk! Let him speak! He comes here alone. He is a brave man.
Thank you, my friend. Hurting me or the innocent people within this house will not change the situation of which you complain. There are legal ways in which you may express your opposition to what is being done. I urge you to take them. For legal opposition is the lifeblood of democracy.
Mentira!
But if you kill or physically injure me, who am the representative of the United States, which is your friend...
That is a lie! You let him continue, you Continue, senor. Speak.
Then the people outside Colombia will think of you not as the civilized beings you are, but as savages. And you will thus hurt the very country we love. You know I am your friend. Why, I see in this very crowd some who have come to me for help, which I have never refused when it was in my power to grant it. There is Martinez, who asked me for legal advice on how to save his farm from a forced sale.
Yes, that is true. And there is Ospina. Mrs. Lincoln brought his family a basket of food only yesterday.
My friends, you wouldn't exactly call that Yankee imperialism, now would you?
Come on, let us go to our homes. Come on.
Thank you.
Abraham.
Inez, your forehead, it's bruised.
It's not important, but little Josh is badly hurt.
Where is he?
In his room. When the crowd came, he ran outside. Someone threw a stone that hit him.
Dreadful.
When I went out to pick him up, a stone struck me.
My poor wife.
But I am all right. It is Josh. He's badly hurt. Very badly hurt.
My head. It hurts. It hurts so much.
Inez, hand me those claws, will you?
Pobrecito. I'll put them on his poor little head.
Mama, Papa, do something, please. It hurts.
There now, my son. Inez, you've been up all night. You're not well yourself. Please take a little rest.
Abraham, do you think he'll...
The doctor said it's in God's hands. The Lord never has deserted us. I don't believe he will this time. Now, please go and rest. Almighty Father, maker of the universe, hear my prayer. Grant to this little boy, who's so dear to us, your great gift of life. Soothe his pain. Grant that he may be spared for now and for many years to come. Thou alone hast the power. We are as nothing compared to thee. Be merciful, O God. Please be merciful.
Just one more spoonful of the broth, Josh. There you are. Oh, Abraham, it's 2 weeks now. It seems more like 2 years.
But thank God he's so much better.
Papa, when I'm all right, can I have all the piggyback rides I want?
Why, yes, son, all you want.
In 1853, Lincoln resigned as charge d'affaires in Bogota and undertook the practice of law in Colombia. He was made an honorary citizen of the country without being obliged to give up his American citizenship, which he dearly cherished. Well loved in Colombia and widely known throughout South America, he was doing much to create goodwill for the United States. In 1854, Lincoln wrote to me,
Dear Speed, I am in receipt of a letter from John Stewart in which he urges me to return to Illinois. He says that a new party is being created, the Republican Party, and that with the, quote, fame, unquote, that I have won through my part in the Panama Canal, which, as you know, is already in course of construction, I could become a power not only in the Republican Party, but indeed in the country. Yesterday I discussed it with my wife.
Abraham, I think your friend, Mr. Stewart, is right.
Well,
Why should you, as he calls it, bury yourself here in Colombia, when you could return to the United States and become...
a great man?
You are a great man. You could become very important in your country. Who knows? Perhaps the most important man of all there.
Inez, I've spent 13 happy years here, and I owe them to you. My law practice is growing. I have few close friends back in the United States, and you now have none.
I can make new friends.
Your family is here.
Abraham, you and my children are my family.
But confess, you'd be more content here.
Where you are, I am content.
Then there's the children. They've been brought up here. They're going to a good school. This is their home. Or is it fair to take them away from it?
Well, it may be difficult for the children.
Why should I trade the precious things I have here for what I may have there? No, Inez. I'm content to remain.
As you wish, Abraham.
Papa, could you...
Now, Josh, don't you think you're getting too big for piggyback ride?
Oh, it isn't me, Papa. It's Brother Tom. Could you give him a piggyback ride?
All right. Come along, Josh. Let's go find Brother Tom.
You are listening to Stroke of Fate. And now may we present our history consultant, the noted writer of the books The Presidency, Lincoln, A Picture Story of His Life, historian Stefan Lorant.
What interesting speculation. Lincoln goes to Bogota, takes a consular post, and lives out his life in Colombia. It sounds so unreal. Actually, he did ask his law partner, John Todd Stewart, to secure him such a job, and Stewart tried, but failed. But suppose Stewart had been successful, and that was tonight's stroke of fate. How different our history would be. To begin with, Lincoln would not have become the husband of Mary Todd. He would not have been elected as representative to Congress. Furthermore, he would not have been aroused by the raging slavery controversy and would not have joined the newly formed Republican Party. He would not have run for the Senate against Stephen A. Douglas, and finally, he would not have become a presidential candidate. Had Lincoln settled in Bogota, he would probably have married. Anne Rutledge, Mary Owens, and Mary Todd would have soon been followed by another girl, for Lincoln at that time was a ladies' man. He would have settled down, raised a family, and he might easily have become interested in projects like the one discussed in tonight's play. And of course, he would never have become President of the United States. How fortunate for history and for us that Stewart could not get him that job in Bogota.
Thank you, Mr. Lorant. We invite you to listen next week to hear what might have happened
If, by a stroke of fate, Benedict Arnold's conspiracy to betray America had succeeded.
Featured in tonight's Stroke of Fate presentation were Karl Weber as Abraham Lincoln, Cameron Prud'Homme as Joshua Speed, Bryna Raeburn as Mrs. Lincoln, Guy Repp as President Lopez. Others in the cast, Ralph Robertson, Francois Grimar, Monya Shayon, and Ralph Camargo. This is Lionel Ricou speaking. Stroke of Fate is produced by Mort and Lester Lewis, conceived and written by Mort Lewis, and directed by Fred Weihe. This is the NBC Radio Network.